Hello, and welcome to our Circana Inspire Snack Unwrap, the Insatiable Craving for Growth. My name is Sally Lyons-Wyatt, and I'm an Executive VP and Chief Advisor for our CPG and food service sector. I'm excited to talk to you today about what's happening in the snacking universe. Before I begin, though, just a few housekeeping rules. This may take the full hour. If you've been on these before, you know that I pack it in, and there's a lot happening in snacking, so there's a lot to talk about. But I do want to make sure we answer your questions. So if you wouldn't mind putting them into the Q&A in the platform, then we will indeed get to you post the webinar. Secondly, if you want to have a copy of this, again, that will be posted so that you're able to get that through the platform and also on our website for the replay. So with that, let's jump in. And there's 4 chapters that we will go through. One is on the US landscape. One is on really what's happening in regards to snacking. So what are the snacking delights that are growing from a theme perspective? Going into the future, you know, it's never enough. Like there's going to always be something. So we're going to share with you what we think are going to be some of the kind of the influencers of future growth. And then, but what's on the short-term horizon for growth. Despite the macroeconomic headwinds that are out there, nearly half of consumers are indeed still snacking 3+ snacks a day. And that is even more so when you look at younger generations. So 18 to 24, it's 54.9% of that age cohort that is snacking 3+ snacks a day, 54.9 for 25 to 34, and 55.6 for 35 to 44. So snacking is absolutely still happening in the US. It's just that what consumers are snacking on has definitely evolved. And so this is looking at the top 15 categories based on dollar ranking. And as you look at the dollar ranking, you will see the first number that is dollar percent change. The second number is unit percent change. And the third number is volume percent change. And I want to highlight that last year we only had 2 categories in 23 that drove volume, dollars, and units. Only 2. Take a look. A lot more actually drove dollars, units, and volume in 24. I took that as a huge positive. Now, with that said, and you can see that from the list, you've got potato chips, more in, you know, from an indulgent side, cookies, frozen novelties, ice cream. But then you also have yogurt and some of the nutritional bars. It's a little bit more on the healthier side. But this is ranked on dollar sales. So these are the categories that bring in most of the dollars throughout the year. Now, I said that this was 2024. I did take a sneak peek. And I will tell you, 25 is starting off definitely with headwinds. And when we look across all 15 of these categories, there's only 5 that are still driving volume growth. And when you take a look at the unit percent change. So when you look at that, you are seeing that there are indeed categories that are really getting kind of hurt in those first few months. I also want to put out a watch out. As you're looking at trends for these first few months, please remember Easter has different weeks. So if you looked at March data and you see this big decline, remember that Easter was at a different time frame last year and a little earlier. So you are overlapping that, and the numbers are not something that you're going to want to look at without remembering. So this is looking through February. March, it's a similar story, but again, we've got the overlap of Easter. When going back to 2024 and really taking a look at those categories that are driving volume, so this is raw volume growth, then you start to see a little bit of a healthier consideration set. So you see the yogurt drinks, you see natural chunk cheese, I can't say that, yogurt drinks, frozen fruit. So you can see that there is a bit more of the indulgence driving volume growth. But at the same time, look, there's crackers, there's potato chips, there's other categories that are also part of the indulgence. And indulgence is alive and well. It's just, it had plateaued for a bit from what we were building outside of COVID. Because if you'll recall, if you've been on this journey with me, 20, 21, 22, 23, all saw indulgence grabbing share. So it's just a little plateaued, that's all. but consumers are still embracing indulgent treats. As I looked into the expanded set, so when you think about core, you saw some of those categories. The expanded set is part of what we call macro snacks. So you've got core, and then you have expanded. Both of those together make macro snacks. In the expanded, you see categories like eggs and cottage cheese and soup and frozen pizza. So those are kind of the categories that consumers will gravitate towards that might be in the house. Maybe they go out and they buy them, but they do source some of their snacks from these categories. And therefore, although all the volume for these categories is not about snacking, it is not. So I will just say that. We know that these categories are influenced and definitely used by snackers at periods during the day and across the year. The ones that have seen a big uptick, again, from a volume perspective, are eggs. Now, granted, eggs can be used for a number of different things, but hard-boiled eggs for snacking is still in, especially those that are looking for protein on the go. Cottage cheese. Hopefully you have seen the 2-year viral, crazy, amazing TikTok videos around all the different ways you can use cottage cheese, and the innovation from certain companies that have come out with different types, flavors, forms, sizes. It's really been rejuvenated, and we've seen great growth there. And then you can see the other categories on here that just shows you the variety consumers are seeking, and that they are willing to go find their snacks from a number of different categories. So then we pulled everything together. So I'm going to unveil kind of the totals, if you will. The first thing to note is that macro snacking, again, that's the core and the expanded, together make up 29% of total food and beverage dollar share. Core snacks alone does 21%. So it is a very large percentage of what consumers are eating. As we look across the 5 years, you can see that 2024, from a unit perspective, actually saw improvement versus 23, 22. So let's walk through it. During 21, we saw volume growth down -1. 2021, that was really prime time COVID years, so we saw an uptick of 2% in units. When you look at 22 and 23, then you saw the declines roughly around 2% each of those years. And then coming into 24, it was flat. So we absolutely saw slowing, which was great. Expanded had a similar trajectory, but definitely had a little better year in 24 than core. When we take a look at how that fared compared to total store and total food and beverage, the first line is total store, looking at dollars and then unit percent change. And you can see that from a total store perspective, total store is outpacing macro and core snacks, but not extended. When you look at food and beverage is outpacing macro snacks, core snacks, and the expanded set from a unit perspective, just slightly. So long story short, I would say that snacking is mirroring the trends from an expanded standpoint and a bit slowed when it comes to the core. And again, I showed you a little bit of this on the prior page, but we do know that year to date, we do see some pullback. And so through February, you can see that snacking is definitely slowing down much faster than the rest of food and beverage, expanded, or even total store. So the key point now is, what do we need to do to really drive better optimal growth for the rest of this year? So that's what we're going to focus on as we continue to move forward. Where are consumers shopping? Well, they're shopping predominantly at value channels, but there's a barbell effect, right? So the barbell effect is, you can see that club growth is growing, and that's through the multi-packs and the bulk packages to really combat inflation. But some consumers cannot afford to buy a multi-pack or that bulk pack. So dollar growth has really been there to help consumers that need that entry price point, maybe a smaller package size. And so we've seen that. And then online has also been growing. In fact, online is an area we're going to focus on a little bit more, but online is serving multiple roles. It's allowing consumers to go and price check. They can find where they may want to go and the price that they can afford, finding the sizes that they want. But make no mistake, value channels are winning for total food and beverage as well as just for snacking. That will continue. But I absolutely see traditional grocery, not just value grocery, dollar, drug, convenience, all of them still trying to fight for that snacking consumer. When you think about on the go, this is something that we had seen a kind of a stalemate in that 21, 22, people were at home more. 23 was the year of mobility. If you'll remember that, I would call it year of mobility. Last year, it was the year of value. This year, right now, we're kind of on the uncertain consumer, but let's focus in on what value means and zeroing in on online and on the go. 48% of consumers want their favorite snacks brands at a reasonable regular price. That's up 2 points versus a year ago, 5.5 points in 2020. 49% state that they have bought snacks online. That's up 7 points in a year. And the average between 25 to 44 is somewhere almost 66%. So the younger consumers are definitely gravitating to online shopping. And you can see here that for snacking outpaces food and beverage as well as total store from an online perspective when you look at dollars and even when you look at unit percent change from a food and beverage standpoint. When online, it's delivery all the way. So pickup is really not happening for most of the categories. Chocolate candy and non-chocolate candy do see some pickup in what we're monitoring, but predominantly the growth for online for snacking is all around delivery. And this does include third parties around 10% of the e-com business, but it definitely is part of this. And consumers are opting in for the convenience as well as, again, just for some, it's a better option for their lifestyle. Every year I do look at our, Circana snacking segments. And so there's 4. One is a better for you, and that's going to be products that are inherently healthy or made to be a little healthier. So the snack produce is part of that. Yogurt is part of that. Permissible indulgence. That's going to be indulgent products that have been made more permissible or products that might be more permissible in nature. So think of that as a baked potato chip versus a fried potato chip. And true indulgence is those fully loaded, yummy snacks that we all love. And then treating is aligned to the National Confectionery Association for gum, chocolate, non-chocolate, and mints. So I looked at it, and you've probably been reading ahead. You can see that what gained share in 2024 was the better for you well-being segment. So it gained share. We did see share loss for true indulgent as well as treating. It did go into better for you. From a unit perspective, though, permissible indulgence also had a slight edge there. So there had been some price fluctuations, so the dollar share didn't shift as much, but yet the units between permissible indulgence and well-being. So it is showing that consumers are gravitating to snacks with more functional or healthier benefits. And when we look at and talk to consumers, just one point, 51% of consumers are looking for snacks that have prebiotics to help them, or probiotics to help them with their digestion. And that's up 13 points since 2020. So that just shows you that consumers are absolutely looking for help. The products that grew the most, driving the growth within the segment itself, you can see is yogurt, the natural chase chunks, the yogurt drinks, frozen fruit. So you can kind of sushi is in there as well. So you can see that variety that's there driving protein and the freshness that a lot of the better for you can align with. All right, so we're going to get into the 4 trends that we feel are really driving the key essence of where growth is being found and what consumers are gravitating towards. So the first one's going to be about the wondrous snack demand. What is influencing demand and how is that manifesting itself? The second one is dancing the well-being snack shuffle. And I say that because well-being crosses physical, mental, and social / community. And snacking plays in all three, not just one. And I think that's the beauty of this industry, is that we definitely play across all three. The great global exploration. This is all about flavors and textures and global kind of co-exploration, global opportunities with licensings and such that have really made that. And speaking of licensing, that takes us into the fourth one, which is all about from snack equity to beyond. And this is all about taking a brand's equity and extending it into categories and outside of CPG, because it's happening all around us. I want to highlight that because I think it's an amazing area and opportunity for future growth. When we talk to consumers, we ask them, what influences you in your snack purchase? And in doing that, you'll see that the number one is all about, hey, I've used it before. I know it's great. I trust the brand. That is the number one at 79%. When you look at price, price is absolutely important, and you're going to see that play out in here. But it's not the only thing. But it did uptick, over 3.6 points. Product labeling and packaging, that has also been part of it. But scooting down the list to TV and radio advertising, you probably didn't think that was going to be one that I mentioned, but there's so much of streaming that's going on, and consumers opting in and having that movie night or watching TV with family and friends, because that is one of the least expensive things that you can go and do these days. And so we've seen an uptick. So we saw an uptick here, and look at it versus 20 with 8.3 points up. And then going down to near the bottom, mentioned by the clerk at checkout. That's incredible. But think about it, right? You have the opportunity where there is a manned checkout. So first, let me just say it has to be manned, but where there is manned, it could be what you see at checkout with the checkout stands that influences them. It could be the clerk saying, hey, did you get a pack of gum? Did you get a mint? Did you get a bar? Did you get a drink? So that influences them, but also just opinions like, hey, have you ever tried this, right? So do not underestimate the power of that checkout person. And then lastly, of course, social media continues to tick up this list. And it is an influencer, again, more so for younger generations, but it is impacting all. And it's up 7 points since 2020. We also talk to consumers around value, and price is obviously one of the areas. And 79% of consumers are looking good for snack products that are good value for the money. But value is perceived differently for all of us. If I could see every one of you right now and talk to you, you would explain value differently than what I perceive value to be. We might be the same, but it really does vary based on lifestyle, life stage, generation, dietary needs, health reasons. There's kid reasons, young kids versus older kids. Like, I could keep going. So 62% of consumers are looking for low price points. 20% are looking at price per serving. So only less than a quarter, but price per serving is important to some. And then you get into the large package sizes. 17% of consumers are looking at that and looking at that for helping them kind of reduce the overall snack expenditure. And when you look at multi-packs, they are roughly almost 29% of sales for core snacks. And they did gain just slightly a 0.5 share over in 24. So multi-packs are still in vogue. Consumers are still buying them, those that can afford to. And then as we continued to look at price, we know that inflation has been shown in snacking, and it's also very similar to what we see in food and beverage. So the bottom left is showing you a 3-year track of total food and beverage price per volume and snack price per volume. And on 2022, you can see that snack outpaced total food and bev. 23, snack outpaced total food and bev. Right now, total food and bev in 24 slightly outpaced snacking. Overall, though, we're at 22% higher prices for snacking, which is kind of in the middle of the pack when you think about food and beverage being somewhere between 30% higher from 19. So we're in that range, but there are some categories when you think about it. Core snacking is at a 7% compounded annual growth rate since 21. And in doing that, then what we found is categories that have outpaced the average of core snacking. So if you're in these categories, there are reasons why you probably have priced the way that you did, but you have to understand you have outpaced other snacking categories. So if you're seeing a slowdown in your own business, then you do need to go back and just assess, are there other ways that maybe we can either bring the price down, hold the price, but try not to take a whole lot more pricing if you can afford to do that. And I talked about the fact that consumers have been going to value channels in 24, but it wasn't just about 24. This is looking at, again, 3 years, 21, 22, 23, 24, the 3-year CAGR, excuse me. And in doing that, the all other multi-outlet plus is predominantly club and mass. And with that, you can see that it gained share, almost 0.8 points of share during that time frame. And its price per volume is definitely lower than the average. And so convenience is much higher. Those of you that compete in convenience, you know that convenience has been suffering from traffic. And part of it is convenience is definitely a great place to go for a variety of snacks, but they are priced a little bit higher than some other venues. So the more that the pricing can be equitable and they get the message out, that'll be fine. It'll help convenience. Value can also mean premium snacks. And for those that are looking for something a little more special. So 68.8% of consumers state that they are purchasing premium snacks more frequently, maybe for the quality or for the flavors, and that's up 1.9 points. But it's even more so when you look at 35 to 44, 45 to 54, 55 to 64, 65 to 74. These consumers are looking for a little extra something, right? So they're saying, it's okay, I want to eat some premium snacks. And then the same with 61% of consumers saying that premium snacks are worth paying extra for. It's even more so with 25 to 34. So they not only state it, but they're actually doing it. So here we've looked at price tiers for snacking, and we start with super premium and premium at the top. These are based on price range, not how something is marketed. And then mainstream, value, and private label. I'm going to focus in on the two columns on the right, where we can see super premium has been able to garner share in 24 and the latest 13 weeks, but so has private label. So this bifurcation that we've been talking about in the industry is absolutely happening in snacking, and consumers do value premium snacks. You may be thinking to yourself, Sally, that's really odd. You've been talking about value and price, and well, why would they be going out and buying premium products then? Well, the part that I mentioned is consumers are making some decisions on discretionary products, and they are not buying as many video games. They're not buying as much prestige beauty. They're not buying as many clothing, right? So we're going without those things, but I might pay $1 or $2 more, or maybe $3 for a premium snack experience. It makes me feel good. Well, that's worth paying a few extra bucks for, just that mental well-being. So this wondrous snack demand can mean premium. But on the flip side, consumers that are looking for a little bit more value, they might turn to private label. So this is taking a look at some of the different categories. And the first number is looking at the brand within that category, unit percent change, and then you see private label. And then the little circle is the unit share. And in looking at these categories, overall, core snacking had a 3.1% increase with a 16.7 share of private label. And you can see where private label has a variety of shares. Some of the lower ones are actually categories we never thought we'd see. So whether that's in chocolate candy or even potato chips. A long time ago, everybody thought, oh, we won't see private label. But you can see that the lower shares are in chocolate and non-chocolate, where brands really do dominate. But we have seen even salty snacks where we've seen some infiltration of private label. But what I do want to point out, the three that are in purple: tortilla chips, potato chips, and yogurt. Those three categories have found a way to coexist with private label. So both are growing and driving the category growth. Those are the categories you need to look to see what did they do in order to be able to do that and coexist, because all categories should find that holy grail. And it's a spoiler alert, differentiation is one of the key things that really have kept branded on the shelf coexisting with private label. Value can also mean I'm on the go, and we mentioned that a little while ago, but here's some other stats. 57% of consumers seek snacks that they can eat on the go, and that is a slight uptick. 53.5% of consumers are eating snacks instead of a meal because they're on the go. That's up 4 points. Now, that meal could be 49.9% of consumers state that they eat snacks instead of a meal at home, or 50% of consumers are eating snacks instead of a meal at work. So this on the go has met many legs, right? We can be on the go, like on a train, in a car, walking, in a park. It could be when we're at work. It can be when we're at home. If you've been watching me for the past several years, I even talk about snacking in your computer, because if many of you are like me, you stare at a pen light all day and you run to go get something to eat, and snacking is normally the first choice. But make no mistake, brands are still important to consumers. 63.1% of consumers state that they purchased the brand of their choice. That's just up 0.8 in a year, but up 4 points since 2020. So brands are still alive and well. Snacking isn't just about it at home. In fact, we've also seen snacking can be a beverage. In fact, 63.9% of consumers say that snacking, sometimes they can have a beverage as a snack. And when we looked at out of home and we looked at some of the different products that were really growing from our food service division, you can see that the Wendy's Frosties or some of the other kind of ice cream delights that are on here really do speak to consumers and answering the call for something that's a little more just yummy and filling. And so these products answer the bill. And then this is taking a look at some of the establishments that are growing from a small, medium chain or a large chain. And whether that's like the Insomnia cookies or crumble cookies, and even some of the pretzels that are on here, pretzel companies, you can see that they're competing for what they may have bought at retail, but they're making that out-of-home experience. So if indeed you are also supplying for the out-of-home experience and you're supplying to food service, absolutely talk up that snacking moment to get consumers to go in more. If you don't, and you want them to go into retail, then you got to find ways to ensure that they are getting a very similar experience. Like, could they put the cookie in a microwave and get a similar experience of going into a shop and getting it homemade? Like, what can they do to have the experience of maybe they would get from a fresh baked something or a freshly made something? So that, just remember, your consideration set isn't just from retail. It's also out of home. Social media is an influencer. I'm not going to play the sound. I am going to let this video play a little bit. Well, I thought it was. No, I'm not. On the left-hand side, this is the hot flaming Cheeto brain that made a sensation on social media. And it's just, again, just this wondrous snack demand that has been fueled by social media. Cottage cheese, again, wouldn't be on the map without what consumers have done with social media. And so consumers are going to social media for inspiration, going for ideas, even finding out what's new. And so I think leveraging it the right way, it can be a growth driver. From a social media standpoint, we also know that there are influencers. So these are a couple of the influencers that are out in that wondrous snack demand from Shaq. He came out with a Shaq-alicious candies this year, and he started off like the middle of the year, and he reached 66% ACV by the end of 24, and he was able to gain $20.1 million in sales in the 5 months. So yes, it helps that he is Shaq, right? That helps. And oh, by the way, the gummies, if you can't tell, there are his face. So it's funny when I've had to write articles, it's the face, Shaq's face is one of the reasons that found growth. So it's just kind of funny to talk about that. Underneath there, you will see that Mr. Beast reformulated the Feastables, and he had a strong social media influencing, and he's had great trial with this reformulation. The question's going to be, what will he look like in a year? So stay tuned. We're going to keep monitoring this and see if the reformulation really did turn it around. But he's got great followers with 2.8 million on TikTok and 1.7 on Instagram. So not saying you need a Shaq or a Mr. Beast. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that consumers are gravitating to influencers and being influenced. And so you can play a role in that. In fact, if you look across the year at the micro holidays that are all around us, Super Bowl, Valentine's, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, you name it. Snacking plays a role in each of these. Maybe a primary role, maybe a secondary, maybe a tertiary, right? It might not be the top two, but why not? Why not go after it? And so what I've done here is we've shared with you the share, that unit share that each of these holidays are. And I will say, we didn't do the lead up to Easter. We didn't do the 6 weeks or whatever it is. We only did the week or two of a holiday just to keep it kind of streamlined and easy. So it's only a week or two, but it gives you a comparison. The fact that each of these could be 2 or 4 share of the year means they can help make or break a year, period. And you want to be able to win. And you'll see that many of the holidays we did see wins, but not Mother's Day, not Father's Day, and not Valentine's Day. Why not? I get it. I get that snacking might not be the first give your mother or your dad. I might not like that myself. But why can't it be a complement to a treat, right? To a present, sorry. Why can't it be a treat to complement the present? Now, I gained some inspiration for this page because of something that Cane's, which is, if you're listening outside of the country and if you're in parts of countries where you don't have Cane's, it is a fried chicken establishment. It is unique in the way in which it engages with the consumers that go through drive-through or walk into their store. It's a different experience. And the fried chicken is actually really good. All right. So with that, they decided to go outside of the norm. You would not go to a quick serve fried chicken place for your Valentine's, but they said, why not? I want you to start thinking about why not when you think about your snacking strategies. Because when Cane's came out, they got super creative with the heart tunnel. They had decorations in the store. They had the drive-through also decorated so that it was very festive. And then when you walked inside and had your romantic fried chicken, you were having an experience that you could post and have fun with, right? So absolutely engage the micro holidays like never before, because here's the deal. We're all wanting that break from life and being able to have something that makes us joyous and happy. And how could you not be happy by looking at this? All right, now, I talked about the fact that snacking plays across all of the well-being journey. And that was the purpose of this chapter around dancing the well-being snack shuffle. And physical, mental, and community are part of this, and snacking plays across all of them. From a physical standpoint, dietary needs are front and center. So 64% of consumers are looking for snacks that are good for them. And that's up 2 points in 1 year, but also 7 points in the 4 years. And oh, by the way, when you go younger, you can see that it's even more so. The younger generations are absolutely leading with health as opposed to just aligning to disease states, which is more so in the older generations, and that they've adapted to it. This younger generation is absolutely leading with it. I am not saying older generations didn't lead. I'm saying there's a larger portion of the younger generations leading. 41% are looking for snacks that support their diet. That's up 13 points in since 21. 26% look for vegan, 28% look for vegetarian. So from a dietary standpoint, and vegetarian is something that we do see that skew a bit higher when you look at 18 up to 44. And GLP-1, I could not do the well-being snack shuffle without talking about GLP-1. Hopefully you've seen what we did back in January about GLP-1. That's not gonna be this. This is just a little bit of an update. First of all, Medicaid is currently covering the cost of GLP-1 in 14 out of 19 states, and that probably is already updated again this week. We can't keep track because it's going really fast. But what that means is that it's going to be more accessible and more available, which means more and more consumers are going to be getting on it. So it means your innovation pipelines need to include some low-cost foods that are, again, portion controlled, really pushing protein, fiber, and the healthy fats that that those that are on GLP-1s are looking for. We also know there's compounded legal measures with the compounding. That was pun on that word, compounding legal measures on the compounding of GLP-1s. So we'll see what happens. But right now, everybody that's out there doing direct to consumer is still going direct to consumer with their compounding. When you think about Hims and Hers and those, so we'll see what happens. But there's that out there. But when we looked at core snacks and we looked at the consumers that are taking GLP-1 that are core snack users, we saw that it aligned very similarly with our January GLP-1 research, where it was low and high income. Low, normally using insurance. High, normally paying out of the pocket or using insurance. There are pockets where middle income, where in the plains you can see there is a skew for core snack users that are on GLP-1. So the point of this is just know that the accessibility and availability is going to not only keep it into the upper and lower income, but we're also going to see a rise across all income levels because it's going to be made a bit more affordable. Where is the prevalence from a snacking perspective? We looked at a regional view. So what you're looking at is the regional concentration of core snack GLP-1 households. And over on the bottom, you're going to see that the Southeast is where you have the highest concentration of core snack GLP-1 households. That also correlates where the obesity rates are higher. So it makes sense. So 44.7% of core snack GLP-1 buyers are in the South. And then when you look across the US, we're at about 39.3% of all GLP-1 buyers are core snack users. So this is impacting a large section of the population. And when they're snacking, we are indeed seeing a bit of a favoring on protein-rich snacks, as well as more savory sweet snacks. You get a little bit, so you see the muffins and you see the chocolate covered salted snacks, so you're kind of getting that jump ball there. But on the right hand side, you'll see where these are the bottom rankings. So donuts are in there, and some other categories. This again does not mean they're not buying these. No, this just means they're buying more of those on the left than on the right. What I would tell you is if you compete on the left, keep doing what you're doing. If you compete on the right, find ways to communicate with these consumers. Remind them of the benefits that you bring, and remind them that it could be just to make them feel good, right? That mental well-being is just as important as the physical, if not working together. We feel at Circana, it's the physical, the mental, and the social that bring harmonized well-being together, which means you play across all. You can communicate where you play in that spectrum with consumers. Now, also in the US, so I know we may have some international colleagues on, in the US, Robert F. Kennedy is overseeing the Making America Healthy Again movement. And we know this will impact snacking. I mean, it's already started to come out. So there'll be a focus on ultra processed foods and food additives as part of the regulation. We already know there's some regulations in front of us around front of package labeling. Also the FDA guidance on evaluating public health importance of some food allergens beyond the major food allergens that we already talk about today. So that could be the gluten allergen and that we talk about today, the dairy, those. There's other regulations coming for beyond that. So you've got to stay on top of the ones that are beyond, as well as the major food allergen labeling requirements. And then what does healthy mean? So there's going to be a lot of debate about that in the US. I'm sure we'll be adopting some European thoughts on that one. I've already started to see that influencing the thinking of many of those in power. And we've obviously seen in the last few months the notes about taking out the red dye number 3. Well, we know that other measures will be coming. So we have to be ready. But the one that came out over the weekend was around the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program with SNAP, and the fact that they want to not let the SNAP consumers buy carb bev or snacks with the monies. But I also know there's a huge debate because a lot of the people using SNAP are in food deserts. And that means you don't have availability to buy things other than that. So it's going to be interesting to see where that nets out. But we do see a lot of products already on the shelf that are really putting forth claims and imprints on the packaging around what is in the package, what are the ways in which that they are providing some nutrient products to the consumer. And on that well-being shuffle, functional benefits and packaging really do align to consumer attitudes. So consumers are saying they want to have better for you products. Well, 34% of consumers want high fiber. That's up. 41% want organic labeling. That's up. 26% are looking for gluten-free. That's up. But 41% want the little calorie, fat, and sugar little icon. Now that's down, but it's still 41%. So it's just that they want that and more is what I've deciphered from the attitudinal work that we look for. And real is still something important that consumers are looking for, natural and real. And we saw that play out with 23.9% of consumers. What claims would you might be asking, like what's trending? Now there's a lot on this. And remember, you will get a copy of this so you can look at it more. But what this is looking at is products with claims versus products without claims, with that said claim, and what is growing versus not growing. So products with a protein claim are outpacing products that don't have a protein claim. That's how you would read this. And you can see that the ones that are at the top of the list, which we did rank on unit sales, when we looked at that, protein, the type of sweetener or the sweetener used, looking at the oils, were also there, the vegan. So consumers are indeed starting to learn more about what's better for them versus not. And when they are leaning in and looking for some healthier options, then they are turning to the labels and the packaging. Remember, your package is the last mile. Your package is the last impression. So although online it's a little trickier because you can't hold it, those images online are important. I know algorithms have been totally put on their ears, so it's not as simple as it used to be. But at a minimum, make sure the images are where consumers can find. And you may say, Sally, that's old news. I've been buying products over the last couple of years online as well as in stores. But the online, sometimes I can't find the package information. I literally have to go to different sites to find somebody that has the right package information. So it's not all the way to bright yet. When you think about protein, that is like the big topic for snacking and food and beverage in general. And what we found in the survey is that protein and energy are almost becoming more and more synonymous with each other. So 63.7% of consumers want snacks that provide an energy boost. That's up, and look at it's much higher when you're looking at 25 to 54. 61% are looking for snacks that are high in protein, 63, 61. And oh, by the way, it was similar age groups. So these groups are absolutely looking for the energy and the protein, and they are starting to be a little more synonymous. 66.9% want snacks that fuel their day, and 49% are looking for snacks that can be used before, during, and after a workout. And again, this 25 to 54 is kind of like the sweet spot for driving a lot of the products. If you've got products where you've put added protein in, that you are able to deliver on energy, then absolutely go after these, but then know you have to work a little bit harder for younger and older. So that's really all this means. And how your messaging, personalized messaging is in. And you've got to be able to have different messaging to different consumers based on their lifestyle, their life stage, the generation, their physical situation, whether it's a dietary or disease state, etc. All that matters. And you can get really smart with targeting with the AI and some of the other methodologies that are out there. And when you think about just the products that are out on the shelf, with broader distribution, these are examples on the top. And then at Expo West, where these were some of the examples that we found at Expo West. So protein is alive and well in the stores and emerging from the new innovations this year. The well-being dance impacts people in different ways. So whether it's, well, taste. Now, granted, here's the one that I always talk about the last 3 years is that taste and flavor are declining, but they're still 83.8 and 79.4. So there's still a majority of consumers, but we all know that if you don't land the taste, you're not going to get repeat. So as much as I can say that those are declining, you got to nail the taste. But meanwhile, consumers are looking for products in their snacks that have vitamins and minerals or added health benefits, or even just making it part of their healthy eating plan. So you got to deliver both. You got to deliver both. You got to deliver on taste and flavor, but you got to be able to have products in your portfolio that are not, you need to have indulgence because that's still alive and well, but you also need to be able to align to some of the well-being needs. All right, so talking about now switching gears and going into flavors and going into something outside of the health and wellness arena. This is just a visual to show you the different ways in which innovation should be thought about. You can have innovation that expands and creates category definitions. You can have innovation that grows shares in current categories. You can have innovation that is expanding into adjacent categories, or even that is more commercial or retail innovation. But if you don't have all 4 of these on your roadmap for the next few years, you need to go back and just continue to revisit it. And as we look across the types of exploration consumers are looking for, experience is really one of the biggest ones. This was one of the larger point changes since 2020. 57.5% of consumers are looking for authentic or unique snack experiences, up 12.5 points since 20. And you can see that there is a smaller portion, especially younger, that are looking for those bold and unexpected flavors. That's why the younger generation, when we come out with these mashups, they're all in because they're looking for that. And something new this year, a brand can be a flavor. So a brand can be a brand and a brand can be a flavor. So Skittles is not just Skittles on here because it's a candy, it's Skittles as a flavoring and as an input, as an ingredient. So this is showing you the fun mashups that maybe you get a lemon and a lime and a cherry and a strawberry kind of fun mashup. You could have dark chocolate, coconut, and caramel. You can get the savory themes as well. But these are some of the different matchups that we found in some of the innovations. And dill is still alive and well. I had to show this. This has been a trend for like 5 years. I thought it was gone. But then when we started looking, it has expanded itself far beyond just snacking, even in lip balm. So I thought that was fun. And we're also seeing flavors getting that global influence, whether it's the matcha or the peri-peri. But you can see some US influenced flavors on here, as well as more global influence flavors. So flavors are really kind of getting very creative and answering the call for fun and excitement. Limited time offers. We've talked about it now for the couple of years. I'm still not going to stop talking about it because these limited time offers provide retailers some excitement to drive traffic and to be able to entice the consumer to come in and look for something new. It's almost like a little treasure hunt. And with it being time aligned, if you will, then there are consumers that go in and want to go ahead and get more than one because they're afraid when they come back, it'll be out of stock. So keep doing those limited time offers. Consumers are also part of their exploration looking for different forms. And freeze dried has really gained the attention of many consumers. As you can see here, it gained a distribution over a course of a year up to almost 50%, with 12% share of candy growth. So not just flavors, but forms and textures and flavor mashups are adding newness. And these are some of the products that we saw at Expo West that are really new in the snacking universe and the great global exploration. So whether it's Bailey's meeting dipping, or Eggo meeting ice cream, or even refrigerated yogurt and granola bark. From snack equity to beyond. So this is our last theme. And this is really all around taking brand equity and bringing it outside of the norm, really to help consumers with their mental well-being. 59% of consumers are looking for snacks that add excitement. They want snacks that they can indulge in. They also are looking for snacks that they can have at special occasions. And you can see how it's been a nice uptick, especially the add excitement. Again, we're all pressured. We've all got all sorts of stress on us. This is a place where the mental part of snacking comes and shines brightly. Brand expansions are delivering that excitement, and they are leveraging their equity across more occasions, as you can see with these products on the page. And these collaborations that you see here are really generating consumer intrigue and expanding reach far and beyond what they may have done had they stayed in their close near-end category. But equity expansion is a two-way street. So meaning there are categories that are coming into snacking, right? With maybe, you can see some of the drinks that are taking snacking and bringing it into snack, or taking their equity and bringing it in the snacking. And then you see snacking going into other categories as well. Oreo being one of the ones that has pioneered this almost across different categories in and out of the store. But that two-way street can also mean companies that take like Crumble, which Crumble is a brand, and they're now finding it in cookies, in cereal, in body washes, and it really is helping them increase their penetration into households they may not have had they stayed right inside just their own sector. So there's that. And I've told many people this story, but my oldest son got money for the holidays and he wanted to buy a Patagonia jacket. And when he went, he came back with a box of crackers, this box of crackers at the top. And I wanted to see the box, and I read the box. And as it states here, we make foods that restore the planet instead of destroying it. People buy a jacket every few years, but they eat several times a day. If we're going to save our home planet, it starts with food. So they have gone from clothing into snacking. With that boundary down, I think all bets are off. I think snacking can go into any sector that you feel you can be authentic. And I think that's the key, is being authentic. And products are also finding success that do this. So Quest, as you can see here, they've gone into they've gone into a variety of different categories, and they've now got more than where they started when they had 14 weekly items selling per store selling. They're now up to 22, and they've had 572% growth in dollars when you look at 21 to 24. So it can work. It doesn't always work. You got to test and learn, but it's definitely something to think about. The future is going to cover these topics: minimal processing, sustainable snacking, personalization and localization, mainstream meal replacements, and AI tech-driven snacks. But I don't have time to go into that. We're almost out of time. So just a sneak peek, we do see that bakers, minimal processing, we've got bakers back, and they are finding a way to make homemade snacks in 20% of consumers' homes. And sustainability is also back in focus, with almost 47% of consumers looking for snacks that reduce packaging to be more environmentally friendly. And that's up 6 points since 2020. So again, these are things that we will focus a bit more in future conversations, but it's definitely part of the growth. But to find near end growth, then it's going to take innovation, experiential options, fun, premiumization, being healthier, and driving engagement with the consumer. And if you embrace these trends and you find a way to have your company be more innovative, then there could be about 3% dollar growth and maybe 1% volume, although tariffs might put an impact in this. So we did our outlooks in October and tariffs weren't part of the equation. We still feel like this is possible, but we also think that companies need to be innovative in your game plan. Really find a defense plan for your core base brands to keep them relevant, and then try to grow and expand beyond boundaries to get into categories outside. We also want you to innovate on experiences, micro holidays, everyday occasions, and maybe even create your own occasion to leverage the equities in your portfolio. Innovate fun merchandising. We all are looking for joy. We all are looking for ways to have fun. And doing that in the stores is so important. And even online, you can really get unique in how you do that. Innovate with premium products. Ensure that your innovation pipeline has a variety of attributes, especially protein and fiber. And also think about how you play along the well-being journey with the physical, mental, and the social aspects. Innovate healthy messaging. Use lookalike modeling for GLP-1 users. We can help with that in your personalized communications. Be innovative with an engagement via trip strategies. Consumers are making quick trips as well as fill-in. So you want to look at those trip strategies and figure out, how can I integrate and be able to be part of each of those types of trips? What do I need to do to interrupt them and get it into the basket? And then leverage the portfolio to really get to the individual strengths of the brands to play across the portfolio. If you look at your portfolio and you can find a path for each one of those brands, great, that is distinct and different. If you have a lot of overlap, then try to figure out if there's a way that the brands can play in different parts of snacking. Because when indeed you do that with legacy brands, then you want to communicate the new benefits. Maybe it's benefits it has and you just never talked about it. Maybe you've never talked about it in the construct of whether it's going to help them from a physical, a mental, or a social. Figure that out. But if you do that, communicate the new benefits and then expand your distribution. And remember, the boundaries are gone now. You don't have to just stay in the category you're in. You can expand out, test and learn, but you can do that. I want to thank the collaborators that helped me put this together. You can see their faces here. This is not something I do alone by any stretch. It takes a village, and I'm so appreciative to my Circana collaborators. We also have a future of snacking coming out that takes a look at consumption. So a little different view than what I've just shared with you, although there's a lot of parallel pathing. 40 plus snack food consumption outlooks through 2027. If you're interested, please reach out to one of your Circana colleagues and they can help point you in the direction for knowing that. Again, I want to thank you so much for attending today's webinar. If you have questions, make sure to put it into the platform. I do hope this was helpful. And until next time, cheers.